We're going to start this week with COVID. It's a story that's not going away. And this week there's been a lot of COVID news coming out. So let's start with looking at some headlines relating to COVID. Padraig, do you want to lead with this one?
Sure. Yeah. Look, I thought it was a bit of a blast from the past in terms of COVID news. Looking at articles in the news this week, Finbar Padraig has come out of Hibernation, so Stephen Donnelly. We're seeing reports again of case numbers and sound bites about reintroducing masks. I had to check the dates on articles to see if they said 2022 or 2020, 21. Because at this point it seems difficult to imagine a return to the dark days of mandatory masks, COVID certs, and articles shutting down debate, citing conspiracy theories. So it's strange to see all this stuff back. I can't actually see this being a real resurgence from there because where we are now, like surely at this stage, any type of the efficacy of vaccines, treatments, masks, if they worked at all, like surely at this point, we won't be going back into another emergency situation. And there are no emergency powers there now at the moment, like for mandating things like masks. So although we're seeing it in the news again, for me, I wouldn't be paying too much attention to it. I don't think we can possibly go back to where we were now, not at this point, considering the amount of money spent. And when you think about it, like the big question for me is not numbers again. The big question is, what have we done in terms of increasing our hospital capacity, our numbers of doctors and nurses? 50 billion is the number I'm hearing a lot being put about that's been spent on the couple of years around COVID. So what have we done in those 2 years in those areas? That's the real question.
Yeah, what kind of preparation has been made? I have been watching some things coming out of Germany, and there seems to be a push there to reintroduce mandatory mask wearing. And there's a little bit of resistance developing to that. Some other COVID news that come out this week. Rob Rose, who is an MEP for the Netherlands, representing the Christian and Reform section of the European Parliament, asked questions from a very senior Pfizer admin, and in relation to the testing of the vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine, with regards to its prevention of transmission. Have a look at this.
U, mevrouw Small, heb ik de volgende vraag waar ik een duidelijk antwoord op wil. And I will speak in English so there are no misunderstandings. Was the Pfizer COVID vaccine tested on stopping the transmission of the virus before it entered the market? If not, please say it clearly. If yes, are you willing to share the data with this committee? And I really want a straight answer, yes or no, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Regarding the question around, did we know about stopping immunisation before it's entered the market? No. We had to really move at the speed of science to really understand what is taking place in the market.
So it would appear that Pfizer did not do any testing with regards to the transmission or the prevention of transmission of the Pfizer vaccine. That's a very worrying development, because we were all told that the primary reason to actually get vaccinated was to not spread it to other people, and that the evidence was there that, the vaccine would stop us from giving it to our older, or giving the virus to our older relatives, spreading it around work, things like that. People lost their jobs because they were told that they were going against the science, and that the science said that if they got vaccinated, they wouldn't be able to transmit the virus. What do you think about this, Padraig?
Yeah, I remember it well. I remember that was the narrative, that you had to do it for others. When that became apparent that it wasn't capable of stopping transmission, that then moved to people needed to get vaccinated to take the pressure off the health services. Now, this was well a year into it, because the vaccines didn't come out on the outset of COVID. I think they came out maybe was it the turn of the year 2021. And we're talking about a year into it at that point. So they turned then towards the healthcare system being overrun, and that was what you were to protect. But what had they done in the intervening year? they increased the hospital capacity. Like, so, the goalpost certainly moved on that. Yeah.
There is a suggestion, isn't there, in this, a very strong inference that governments, and our own Irish government, didn't bother asking for the data, didn't bother to question or to do any basic research before making statements and introducing laws that really segregated people and really traumatized a lot of people who to this day don't feel that they're in a collective communal society anymore, because they were isolated and they were made feel unequal and lesser as human beings. I believe that poor 𝗕'𝗰𝗩𝗂 of the 𝗕'𝗀 party has just put a question today to the government with regards to what data they had about the efficacy of Pfizer in terms of it preventing transmission of the COVID virus. And it'll be interesting to see what the answer to that will be, and we will follow that up. More COVID news this week. The new Premier of Alberta, a woman called Daniela Smith, has made a statement to Alberta and to the world with regards to her opinion about the discrimination against people who are not vaccinated against COVID virus. She also, I believe, fired the chief medical officer in Alberta as well. Here's that speech.
The community that faced the most restrictions on their freedoms in the last year were those who made a choice not to be vaccinated. I don't think I've ever experienced a situation in my lifetime where a person was fired from their job, or not allowed to watch their kids play hockey, or not allowed to go visit a loved one in long-term care or hospital, or not allowed to go get on a plane to either go across the country to see family or even travel across the border. So they have been the most discriminated against group that I've ever witnessed in my lifetime. That's a pretty extreme level of discrimination that we have seen. I don't take away any of the discrimination that I've seen in those other groups that you mentioned, but this has been an extraordinary time in the last year in particular. And I want people to know that I find that unacceptable, that we are not going to create a segregated society on the basis of a medical choice.
What do you think about that, Padraig?
I think, Finbar, it's like what we've got to keep an eye on is the WHO pandemic treaty looming in the background, which is looking to take the autonomy of and sovereignty of individual states in their own healthcare decision making away and bring it to an overall body under the WHO. Like this, like when you think about, we've got TDs in the Dáil asking questions of what statistics and data had the government got to go on to make the decisions. If you think about that in the context of, well, let's sign up to a treaty where we won't make any decisions. We'll take a directive from external. You know, it's really got to look at this, and people probably need to really look at the finite detail in these things and get involved and have their say, because it sounds anti-democratic, like, you know. Has
the public just about had enough of it? Like, the uptake in boosters and extra vaccines and number 5, 6, 7, 8, it's people are just not taking them anymore. I saw a report today in France, X amount of million vaccines have to be dumped. It's causing a significant embarrassment to the French government. There was other stories coming out over the last couple of days about the massive waste in the amount of vaccines that were purchased for the ratio comparison to the population of Europe was quite disproportionate, and all these vaccines have to be dumped as well. And it seems that people just are giving up on the whole thing and are just moving on with their lives. Do you feel that's happening, or? Yeah,
well, for me, it was always about, it was a rights issue, you know, like people have the right of autonomy over their own body. Like, it's something that people fight very hard for on other topics, and the way it came in so strong, even to be honest, like, Finbar, depending on where we air this video, we're probably going to get some sort of a disclaimer put down, something about COVID or something or other. Like, it's nonsense. We can't even talk about these things. Like, we're not even talking about whether vaccines work or don't work. We're not talking about any conspiracy theory material yet and all. It's a taboo subject. So, like, it's a very, very strange time. I'm certainly sick of it, Finbar. I'd like to not be talking about it anymore.
Yeah. But at the same time, We're here for a reason, Padraig, and it's not to go along with the narrative or to avoid conversation. I think you and I are long enough in the tooth to be able to stand up and speak our truth, no matter what that truth is.